Right, I'm going to start. So, good morning, everyone. Good to see you here. This is the tutorial for FINA 6067. Today we are actually starting at the proper time or proper day, which is Saturday morning. Last week there was a makeup session on Monday. That happened like 12 days ago. Because of holiday on Saturday. So I hope you're all well. I thank you for coming in so early. I do appreciate it. And I'm going to make sure it's time well spent. I noticed just looking at the timetable that we're here. I have to rather dubious distinction of being the only person who starts class at 8:30 in the morning. It is quite early, I do understand and I appreciate. But you know what? So as you know, people in banking and finance, normally they are early morning people. And I myself have been getting out of bed at 6 a.m. 5 days a week for 20 years. Long before I came here. So now I only have to do it once a week. So I'm always thankful. But I think this, if you look on the bright side, it's actually good training for you. I think it's good for your health. Unless you had a wild party last night, in which case you have some difficulty getting out of bed. But other than that, I think it will make better use of your day, and you might even thank me for it. Now, I want to do a number of things today, and I think it'll give you an idea of what tutorial is about. I really like this course with Professor Paul Innes. His topics, meaning that in a tutorial, there is never a shortage of things to talk about. And in fact, it's quite the other way around. There are so many things I can share with you. I'm going to start today by I want to talk to you a little bit about terminology. This is something that people hear a lot about, but they never really look into it. It's more interesting than we think. I want to talk a little bit about what I call listing philosophies, which is relevant, especially in the light of the quite fierce competition between Hong Kong and New York in trying to attract companies from overseas to come and list here for trading their stocks. Finally, I will take a quick look at the in-class assignment. Now, I know that we went through that very quickly with some of you last Monday, but that was very fast. And also, many of you were not actually here. So today, we will take another look at that. So that will take us to around maybe 9:45. And then I want to leave like 10 minutes for you to ask me any questions in public. I will answer them in front of everyone. And we'll probably finish just shortly before 10 o'clock, because I understand some of you have other classes to go to. And so do I. Fortunately, it's only downstairs. So we'll do that, and that's pretty much what we'll do every week. In terms of just housekeeping things, there's not much I need to say. So today we are already here, getting near the end of September. And then after that, this afternoon, of course, we're going to meet again downstairs with Paul, starting at 2:30. And I think he is likely to give you the take-home assignment this week. So the next lecture is when he gives you an assignment, normally you have 2 weeks to do it, and you need to hand in the assignment at the start of the lecture. He's quite strict on that, so try not to be late and try to hand it in at the start, because he starts making references to the assignment during the lecture. So if you're late or if you didn't have it in, that makes it quite difficult. Tutorials, you know about that. That makes life different. I want to start just by welcoming you all to the Cayman Islands. Has anyone ever been there? Has anyone been anywhere near? Do you even know where? Now, the reason I'm going to bring up this topic is it is quite interesting. You hear it a lot in finance. You hear it in people sell us central purpose vehicles. This company is there. So it's worth just talking a little bit about the background of this, so you have something in your mind what this is all about. Now, first of all, you know where it is. Who knows where it is? Who knows where the Cayman Islands are? Yes. And the Cuba. So you Googled it. Yeah. All right. Thank you for that. It is indeed somewhere off this, they call it the Caribbean. So somewhere off the southern side of the United States. It has 3 islands. They're called the Cayman Islands. And the biggest one is called Grand Cayman. And then there's Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. And all this is not only interesting, but it is relevant to just the extraordinary nature of this place, which has some similarities, I think, with Hong Kong. Now, don't Google on this. If you know it, you just tell me. If you don't, then never mind. How big is it? Any idea? No idea. It is around 250 square kilometers, which is around 1/4 the size of Hong Kong. An interesting fact about Hong Kong actually is Hong Kong, the land on the map. I think this is the area that how much of that actually is what we call usable in Hong Kong. Did you know? Hong Kong is very mountainous. There's mountains everywhere. Great for hiking, but not so good for living. You know how much land actually you have to build something? It is around 40 of that. So that partly explains why land in Hong Kong is so expensive. So the size of this place is around, so that's very small. It would be like Hong Kong Island, maybe Lantau Island. It's very, very, very small. And the population is even smaller. There are 65,000 people in Cayman Islands. The more people is Taiwan. Now, here is an interesting one. So the GDP per person, because it's such a small place, is somewhere around just a little under $60,000. It's ranked number 9 in the world according to the United Nations statistics. And in fact, if we were to take a quick look at that, just for interest, so if I go, and there are many, many places where you can find numbers like that. If if I go GDP, here you go, per capita ranking, and I think Wikipedia probably has it. I'll just show you. So this is on a per capita basis. This is ranking the GDP of this certain jurisdiction, dividing it by the population. You can see what's college right up there. I didn't know that. I have to look at it. But Cayman Islands, so there are statistics according to the IMF and the World Bank and also the United Nations. For some reason, IMF and World Bank, they don't count the Cayman Islands. They just ignore that place. But if it was counted, it's actually quite high. So all these places on top, you know them. How Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Monaco. I want to draw your attention to something quite interesting. If you look down and well, sorry, going on and on. I think the reason why the IMF and the World Bank, they don't include some places, I hesitate to the country, is because of the distorted GDP per capita for tax havens. Now, stunning $12 trillion, almost 40% of all FDI globally, completely artificial. It consists of national investments passing through empty corporate shells with no real activities. I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I'm just telling you as it is. Okay? I don't make a judgment. These include empty corporate shells, almost always passing through well-known tax havens. Now, look at this list. So the Netherlands, Luxembourg, Hong Kong, the British Virgin Islands, or BVI, the Cayman Islands is famous for that. And then Ireland and Singapore. Notice they host together collectively more than 85% of the world's investment in special purpose entities, or sometimes called SPV, special purpose vehicles. There's not really too much difference, which are often set up for tax reasons. The money, if you look at this list of places, you will see that really it's only Hong Kong. Within this list, it's only Hong Kong which also has a world-class equity market. I don't want to say that world-class financial markets, because Singapore is also competitive, but Singapore doesn't really have much of an equity market to speak of. And I don't think they ever will. So, yes.
Is that where companies are always out of the tax reasons in these regions, but progressive price that it is not because of tax that companies are incorporated in Cayman Islands.
I think tax is possibly one reason. It wouldn't be the only reason. I think tax is an important consideration. It is. He said it's not. He said it's not because of tax.
That is because of the convenience of accounting reporting.
I would argue it's a bit of both. I want to show you. Okay, hold on. I put that somewhere. Hold on a second. I was going to show you this later, but I might as well show you now. According to one report that I saw last week from the Financial Times. You know what FDI means, right? Foreign direct investments.
So this is actually confirming what you just told me. If Apple or Tesla comes into China and invests, they bring in dollars and they buy land and they build factories, that is an example of an FDI. Now that's a very good FDI and it's good for business, but here there is you can see the headline, more than 1/3 of foreign investments is multinationals dodging tax now. I read this last week, but if I do a search here for the word Cayman, I check it will come up. I don't know, okay, so I'm risking my reputation here.
I'm going to look for it. What do you think? Oh, shit. Or maybe Ireland, because Ireland is another place. Oh, here you go. So nearly half of the phantom, okay.
I think Hong Kong probably will be this. Okay, never mind, became Hong Kong.
Maybe Hong Kong is in here. Oh no, it's not my day. But you get the point. So this is an interesting report. I think tax is an important consideration. But I'll tell you why it is like this. Anyway, the Cayman Islands should be in that news story.
So first of all, it is somewhere to the south of Cuba. So this is the United States. This is Florida. This is Disneyland. This is the world. It's just 3 little islands. It's tiny, tiny. And this is what it looks like. That's the main island anyway. Don't forget, there's only 65,000 people there.
What is so special about this place?
Why? Now, if you look up information on Cayman on any website, you're going to find half a dozen of attributes such as stability, and it is tax friendly and follows its compliance with international tax regulations. But actually, there's no corporate tax in Cayman. It is very convenient. It is true. The incorporation process can take only 1 day. There is nothing to stop any of you starting a company in Cayman if you have that kind of money. It's probably more expensive than starting a company in Hong Kong. I encourage you to do that too. It's truly very cheap. It's very flexible, and there are other things. And but one of the most important thing that I have not mentioned here, which I think I should, is it's based on the English legal system. This place actually was part of the British Protectorate, or British Overseas Territory. I don't know now whether it is a country or not. So basically, you've got 65,000 people. A lot of them are involved in fishing, not in finance. And then everyone sort of agrees, okay, we will abide by and respect the English law, especially corporation law here. These are the rules of the game. And if you incorporate Cayman, then you follow the laws of Cayman Islands, which are based in the laws of the United Kingdom. Same for Hong Kong to a great extent, but so does that really work? Oh, well, I think it does, because when you've got this sort of company listed there, Alibaba, over $200 billion market cap, it's not a joke. This is serious stuff. There's another one. There are many others. Coca-Cola, I don't think their main office is incorporated in Cayman. I think it's still in the United States. They do have an entity, and a substantial one probably, in the Cayman Islands. And there are a lot of other ones
that you can click on. And you can see, especially in banking,
that anybody who is anybody has some kind of registration. So that tells you something about the significance of this place. Okay. Now,
I just want to,
share that background with you, not only because it is interesting, but in the future, you're going to run into Cayman Islands again and again and again in your career. So you can think back and think that you
know a little bit about this place and the origin and the background, okay? All right. Now, oh yeah, and you can just click on this. They tell you, I think there's like 200,000 companies that are listed in Cayman, and it increases every year.
And Paul actually made an interesting remark last time we met. I don't know if many of you caught that remark. He said, because the Cayman Islands are, they operate under a version of English law. And I think there is some special treatment of Cayman Island companies within the European Union. And when Brexit happens, this actually might change. And it's all a mess right now. So we're not really sure what will happen there.
It's good to maybe keep an eye. This is another website talking about incorporating a company. There are different types of companies that you can incorporate there. We'll talk more about that later on. There may be some statistics. See what it shows here. Company statistics. New companies. Number of companies terminated. So some people leave, but more people go in than people leaving. Most of these are called exempt companies. See, this is how many people go in every year, and it's on an uptrend. Anyway, that is Cayman Islands.
Another thing I want to just make a mention here. I don't know if anyone else tells you about this, either in this course or in this program or elsewhere. We will come back to this topic maybe a little later in a few weeks' time, but I want to just give you the background, which is what I call the philosophy of listing your stocks to trading down. Broadly speaking, there are two approaches when the company goes into a certain market, either whether it's New York or London or Hong Kong or Singapore or whatever. And the regulators there They look at your submission, your application, and look at your financials, your track record, and the nature of the company's business, and then they decide whether they want to approve you or not. There are two ways they do that. The first one is called merit-based, and the second one is called disclosure-based. Have you heard of these terms before? Does anyone know what they are? Well, I think it is helpful that at least you are aware. And it is relevant to Hong Kong. It is relevant, it will be relevant again in a few weeks to another discussion that I'm going to share with you on WVR, weighted voting rights. Do you know what that is? There's a big controversy on this topic, which is a very hot topic. Weighted voting rights is, okay, so traditionally,
When a company has some shares, so this is the equity part. So if there were like 1 billion shares, then every single share
in here will carry equal voting power. That's the tradition, that's the standard, that's the classical, equity risk participation framework that we've known for 100, 200 years. Weighted voting rights
explicitly will state that there are different classes of shares. So maybe of this 1 billion, there's like a class A, for example, and there's a class B. Nothing to do with A shares, B shares. I don't really mean that. Okay? But class A, maybe 90% of the shares, so that's 900 million. Class B might be 100 million shares, but for some reason, Class B can have more voting power.
You see what I mean?
So Class B will have more voting power than the 10%
that you normally would associate with that. That's called weighted voting rights. I'll introduce this idea to you now and talk much more about it later on. It's a very interesting topic. Now, Hong Kong is actually an example of
a merit-based
listing philosophy. And the United States at the other end, and they are more disclosure-based. There is some tendency all over the world
to move towards the US model. Now,
and we come back to the last bullet point later on. But what does it even mean? I'll tell you what it means. And if you want to be in ECM, I think it's helpful to know about this. So if you are a merit-based, the Hong Kong, the Hong Kong Exchange, Hong Kong EX, is more of a merit-based platform. So in a merit-based listing jurisdiction, if a company goes to that market, goes to Hong Kong EX and say, hey, I would like to come here and apply to have my stocks listed in your exchange. I would like to do an IPO here, for example. So that regulator will take a close look at your business and your track record. They look at the risks. They look at whether they think your company is proper. They take a much closer look at your business. And if they think you're not really up to standard, or if they think there is a chance that investors get blown up, they might either ask you to make some adjustments, or they might just not approve it. So in other words, they take a much closer look. Now, the United States is quite different. So you know how, and this has a lot, I think, to do with, with America. Okay? They believe in big markets, small government. And what they do is the disclosure requirements in the United States are a lot tougher. So you have to tell investors a lot of information. But after that, it's really up to the investor to make a judgment. So indirectly, in the US, what they're saying is, well, if I'm a regulator, who am I to make a judgment about whether this business is good or not? Let the investor decide. Now, I am not saying that in Hong Kong, they don't ask for disclosure. Of course they do. They ask for a lot of information. But in the US, maybe they ask for this. They ask for even more. And then they leave it up to the investor to now. So it's just a very different philosophy. There's no right or wrong to it, but you, I think, should at least be aware of it. And I have a little document here which summarizes that quite well. And I highlighted some parts that I will now share with you. I can share this document with you too. It's not long and it's very easy to read. So disclosure-based regulation, so that's the US approach. So here they say, one philosophy may be characterized as America, that would be Hong Kong. And according to that, the regulators will seek to protect investors from abuse and ensure that securities are offered to them at a fair price by intervening substantively in the offering process. I think that the emphasis is on the interfering or intervention. So they take a much closer look. And the idea cannot really see until the securities are approved. So not approved is not approved. They have to give you the blessing. And before the approval happens, the authority will review the terms, including the business prospects of the issuer and the offer price. They take a look at that. They do in Hong Kong, I think they do in China too, yeah, to some degree. So what is the purpose of that? They are authorized to deny registration unless the terms you have a fair relation, unless there is a fair relation between promoters, that's the issue side, and investors and the public. Investors have a reasonable idea of the risk and the returns linked to it. Now, on the face of it, these are laudable aims. Laudable means these are admirable. These are good intentions. However, you can make criticism. On what basis can the regulator decide whether the risk to return was fair? Yeah, how do they make that judgment? So, in the US, they don't do that. And I want to emphasize, I'm not saying this is good or bad, I just tell you as it is, and you can decide yourself. Yes. yes and no. I think in the US, they ask for much more information. They ask for much more than Hong Kong. And of course, yes, they have to make sure you disclose everything that is asked for, and you disclose it correctly and properly. Now, in Hong Kong, they also do that, but they don't ask for as much information. But instead, they take a closer look at the business itself, and they take a closer look at what that business actually is doing, and what are the risks associated with it, and whether they think the deal is priced fairly or not, and so on in the previous debate. Now, these are things that the U.S. regulator will not do. So they leave it entirely up to the investor. So we give you a lot of information, and it's up to you to decide for yourself. So we don't take responsibility for that. It's a very American thing. Okay, we give you the freedom. You take the freedom, you take the responsibility. But in Hong Kong and some other places, not only Hong Kong, they simply stated, merit-based regulations unnecessarily constrain the freedom of people to do business as they see fit, discourages entrepreneurial initiative and indeed create obstacles for the flow of capital for its most efficient use. Now, that is a quote from somebody who obviously is in support of disclosure-based regulation, where the issuer under that kind of regime is required to make full disclosure, and it is then up to the investor to take complete responsibility for their own decision. The regulator does not intervene paternally. Those words, that means paternal means father. So they don't act like a granddaddy behind the scenes. They do not intervene paternally in the issuer-investor relationship. They don't stand in the middle, but they only concern with the design and enforcement of a framework that they make sure is proper. I just want you to have this awareness, because it does have an effect on companies deciding which market they want to go in for their IPO. It plays a part. I'm not sure Paul talks about that. It's worth keeping in mind. Now, it's interesting to show this one more paragraph. So this article is trying to be more balanced. So you can also challenge the American disclosure-based philosophy. How do you know that issuers are in fact fully disclosing everything in a fair manner? And as for the investor, so you want the investors just to rely on themselves, but in reality, the issuer is more powerful. So the information, there can be an asymmetry. So they are not equal negotiating parties. How do you ensure when they are unequal that there will be a fair negotiation? And so on. Okay?
Yes, so just how can a IPO successfully? It means it sells 1,000 shares, and the 1,000 shares it then trades up by the investor. It means the IPO successfully.
Yeah, that's the process.
So if there's only 100 shares left, the IPO failed.
What do you mean?
Just
if there's 100 shares left?
If they issue 1,000 shares and the investors eventually only buy 500 shares.
Yeah.
So the IPO failed.
Did you hear that question? So he's asking if the issuer issued 1,000 shares, but only 500 was, the word is subscribed. If 500 was subscribed or purchased by investors, then yes, then there would be a disaster. The official or the polite way to say it will be this IPO was undersubscribed. Number one. Number two, okay, because you asked this question, so I'll tell you a bit more, which is often how it happens. In a lot of capital market transactions, whether it is in the stock market or the bond market, there is usually a party called the underwriter. So what the underwriter does is, say you are the company, and the underwriter is usually one of the lead managers involved. So there are different roles. So I can be lead manager, and I can also be lead underwriter, or I can just be an underwriter. So if you issue 1,000 shares, and I'm an underwriter, so I'm Morgan Stanley or Nomura or whoever, and these are the investors. So I promise you, if the shares don't get placed completely, I take it up. Okay. Now, it sounds like a very cool thing to do, okay, on me, but there are huge risks associated with that. So you would have to pay a fee normally. So yes. When they have, during the time, okay, so she's asking, do they have the voting rights? Well, yes, you would. If the IPO, didn't go so well, and I had to buy some of those shares during the time when I am a shareholder, I will also have the voting rights. Yeah. You do, but you do when you buy the shares, you are effectively an owner. You can be. So the voting rights and the control comes with share ownership. Whether that ownership is for a lifetime or for 1 year or 1 day or 0.02 nanoseconds, in that moment, you are still the owner and you will have voting rights. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
If that happens, how do they usually exit the investment?
Yeah.
Because if that happens, it means that the market didn't want to buy the company's shares, so how do they exit the investment?
It's a good question. People are often, bankers, they get a very bad treatment sometimes from the press. I think bankers make a lot of money and they're overpaid. But banks, they take a lot of risks, especially in bad times. People don't realize when you are an underwriter in a capital market transaction, and it's going badly, you take it all up. And what you do is you will try to either offload it slowly, or there are a few things you can do. One is you just sit on it and hope that the market recovers. If you are an underwriter and you end up needing to take up all those shares or all those bonds, it probably means it's either the company has a problem or the market is not going well, or both. Then you have to
you have to take it up. And so one, you just take it up and you sit on it. Or two, you take it up and you try to quietly offload it little by little. Or you can try to hedge it. So you buy the shares of that company and you would normally try to hedge it with, taking a view on the market, the overall market. So maybe you're long the shares of that company and you try to short the market and hope that the two are not equal, but you try to do that and hope that the risk will offset each other to some degree. So there are things you can do. We're getting further and further away. But we're still talking about equity markets. Have I answered your question? Yeah. Yeah. Sure. There are various ways, yes. I wouldn't be the best person to tell you the exact detailed procedure, but for example, all the financials do have to be signed off by, proper licensed auditors and accountants. And then normally the manager, sometimes called the sponsor, the lead manager for the IPO, so a bank like Morgan Stanley or CICC, they have a role to play to make sure that all the disclosures are proper and genuine and authentic. Otherwise, they can be held liable. So there are various interested parties involved in this process. Okay? Yes?
The company well when the IPO happens.
Yeah.
And this will, just buying some share will ensure the disclosure and the information. And so it is also, you're thinking it is also beneficial or just regulation methods not very.
Oh, okay. You are actually telling me that they have to buy some shares.
Yeah, I heard that in Chinese market is the stock market.
Did you hear that? Is that true? In the star market, if you are the underwriter, then you have to purchase, so you have to take up a certain percentage of the IPO. Well, there are two sides to that argument. So the question is that actually a good thing or not? If you are Morgan Stanley, if you are CICC, if you are BOCI, when you are involved in an IPO, and you are the underwriter, then by law, you are required to take up a certain amount. The first question is how much? That's quite substantial. 5%. I can't really say whether that's a good idea or not. I can see the purpose behind it. If that was to happen, then the underwriters will have a bigger incentive because they are putting real money on the table. Yes, it is true. But But if every single time an iBank comes to the market with a new deal, you make them do this, it's going to make it very, very expensive to do business for anybody, which in the end is going to end up hurting investors and hurting the issuer. That's the first point, okay? The second point, I think, is that even if they don't need to buy part of the if they don't do that, when an IPO or a bond issue goes badly, the iBank is going to suffer, first of all, from the reputation risks. So everyone will know about it in the market. Oh, you really messed this one up, number one. And number two, they may have legal consequence, which can be far more serious than just losing a few $1 million. You get sued, they take your license away. That's pretty bad. Okay. And number three, if you were the underwriter and the deal goes badly, you may end up buying it anyway, but at a later stage, when no one is actually taking up your shares. So there is a pros and cons to it. Yeah. Sorry, did someone put the hand up just now? I thought I saw a hand. Yes, sir. Yeah. I don't think that there is a law in the US that says the underwriter must buy a certain amount. They would come in and take up, whatever is the surplus is normally, I think, the practice. But anyway, a lot of very interesting questions. Thank you for that. Now, let me just very quickly actually, next time I want to talk about these other things. Different types of IPOs and how you interpret them and so on. But for now, I would like to act under Paul's instructions. And he asked me to go through the in-class assignments with you. Now, you must have noticed, I know we did that with some of you last Monday, but it was very fast and many of you were not here. So let me just bring up the more important points. This one is so simple, but we can do these true, false. Actually, your take-home assignments, some questions are like this. Now, I know he's given you the solution. Paul is very good that way. So it's very organized, and you already have the solution to it. But I think if you just look at the questions and then you look at the solutions, it's not always the best way to learn. Let me just spend the next 20 minutes or so to run through them with you very quickly, okay? And I mean, you already have the answers, so I'm not going to ask you the answers, but I might ask you the reason behind the answer, okay? Now, can you all see that quite clearly? Let me start with number one. So now this is not a share, A shares, okay? A shares, when they are listed in Shenzhen or Shanghai, are tradable in renminbi and have par values expressed in renminbi. Is that true? That is the definition of A shares. And again, I emphasize, this so-called par value thing. People wonder, what is par value? And like I said to you last time when I showed you that stock certificate, par value is really nothing more than when you start a company, you start with a certain amount of capital. Here is $3 million, and you start with a certain number of shares, 3 million. So right on day one, at the very first moment when your company was born, there is this thing called a par value. That's about it. It has some accounting significance, but other than that, from the economic viewpoint, it doesn't really change and it doesn't really add any value. Okay, but I'll just make another mention of this. So that is the definition of A shares. Let me just rub off some of this stuff here. So question 2, overseas incorporated companies are not able to list in A share form either in Shanghai or in Shenzhen. Is that true? Yep, that is just a matter of regulation. So right now, if you are McDonald's or Microsoft, you can't go into the China market and start selling shares. If mainland Chinese incorporated entity, MC, with tradable A and H shares does a capitalization issue. I'll see you later. Have a good day. No, he needs to leave. He told me about that. Does a capitalization issue on a 2 for 5 terms, the number of tradable A and H each rises by 40%. Do you actually understand this question? It is just saying to you that a company which has some shares is issuing more. So it would look something like this. Not this one. So this might be your balance sheet before. And maybe you have 50 shares of A and 50 shares of H. And now what you do is you are going to issue more. I'm not really drawing this to scale. So now you're issuing another 20. We'll talk more next time about issuing new shares and also just selling old shares. We'll do that. But here, so yes, your shareholdings has gone up from 50 or 100 to 140. That's all that question is trying to tell you, okay? Number 4, for an issuer with tradable A shares and H shares, the two sets are not fungible. You do understand what that means, right? Fungible means that the best word I can think of is exchangeable or interchangeable if you want. Interchangeable. They are not changeable. When two things are not interchangeable, it is actually very, very hard to arbitrage between them, which is why the gap between A shares and H shares can stay so wide or get even wider for a long period of time. Okay. All H share issuers on Hong Kong Exchange have an accompanying A share listing on either the Shanghai or Shenzhen Stock Exchange. If you don't know the answers to these questions, I recommend you don't look at the answers. You just think about You think about it now. Is that true? Why not? You are right to say it's not true, but why not? I'll tell you why not. They are separate and you don't need to. You don't need it. In fact, I was drawing some pictures of what can happen. So here is scenario A.
For example, when a company incorporated in China, started off completely state-owned, all of it, and then the practice is they will issue some A shares, and then they come to Hong Kong and they issue some H. Now that's one way.
The key point to remember is you don't have to do that. It is not necessary. It can happen, but it's not that this is something that they might have done instead.
So it was completely state-owned to begin with, and then they don't issue any aid, they just come directly to Hong Kong. That is also possible. That's the point of this question. Okay?
No one says, oh, you must have sold shares in China before you can do it in Hong Kong. No, you don't need to. Okay? That's why the answer is F. Number 6. B shares listed on the Shanghai Stock Exchange have Hong Kong dollar par value traded in renminbi. Is that true? Why not? They are traded in Hong Kong dollars, I think. Sorry? Oh, sorry, I mean, yeah. Well, they're the same thing, okay? Oh, not quite, but yeah. Okay. So it's wrong on both counts. And for a company, number 7 is a related question. For a company with tradable B shares in Shenzhen, trades in the B shares are conducted in Hong Kong dollars. That is true. It's worth asking, what is when you see all these funny looking instruments
In the market for the first time, whether it's A shares, B shares, H shares, J shares, M shares, it's worth asking. Why? What are we? What are we doing? What are we doing it for? And I don't pretend to be the best expert on these things, but just looking at it, it must be because these companies in China, number one, they would welcome Hong Kong dollars or US dollars. They welcome Hong Kong dollars, and they want to attract Hong Kong dollars within the Chinese capital market. That must be why they do
I want to speed up. What's the next question? The par value of stock in a Shanghai listed B share issuer is denominated in US dollar. No, par values of these B shares are never, they're always in renminbi. Okay. Because par value relates to the time when you incorporate, how you want to denominate your shares. Whether you actually end up trading them in US dollars, Hong Kong dollars, Japanese yen, Swiss franc, euros, that's a separate question. Are you with me? Yeah? So par value is par value. What else? So number 9. For a company with A share listed on Shanghai and H listed in Hong Kong, the A and H pay the same dividend per share. I think the emphasis is exchange adjusted. Is that true or not? Is it? It's true. I think that's actually a very key point. You may not realize that.
If you are an investor in China and you buy a H share, and then some guy in Hong Kong buys, A share, and then some guy in Hong Kong buys a H share, actually your financial entitlements are the same after adjustment for the Hong Kong dollar renminbi exchange rate. So if a stock pays $1 renminbi dividend in China, it will pay you something like $1.20 Hong Kong. This is a more important point than you might realize, because that means the shareholders' rights in the H share market are identical to the shareholders' rights in the Asia market, which means I think they should have a very similar price. They don't. Okay? That for me is the interesting part.
Okay? So the financial entitlements actually are the same. Xiaomi, okay, I'm now on question 10. As listed on Hong Kong Exchange is an example of a red chip. Is it? Why not? It's a very rare, so the definition of a red chip, there are two criteria.
One is that the company is incorporated outside of China. And the second criteria is that it has state ownership. The red chip, Xiaomi actually failed on the second one because it was a private enterprise. Can you think of another one? Xiaomi. Tencent. Is that right? It's Tencent. Tencent is. I eliminate one. Try to move on. You can ask Paul.
He should know. Okay, I think we're doing quite well on time. All right, now China Construction Bank is an example of H share. And in fact, 11 and 12, you can work together. And Bank of China listed on Hong Kong EX is also an example of a H share. Is that true? Now, I don't blame you for getting confused about question 13. Bank of China Hong Kong Limited is a red chip stock. There are people, if you go out there on the street, you go to the MTR station and you ask 10 people, do you know the difference between Bank of China H shares and Bank of China Hong Kong shares? I bet you anything, 9 out of 10 do not understand. You are that 1 out of 10, okay? And you should be, that's why you're here. Now, let me, I want to show you this website at the bottom, but for that, I have to use the Acrobat Reader. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to click on, so this can be incredibly confusing. So if you click on that bottom website, and it takes you into the Hong Kong Exchange. Hello? Well, it should. Oh, here we go. This website didn't have a morning coffee yet. Now, so here is the list of the H-share companies. If you don't include the market today, or not today, these are the actual stock codes of CCB and Ping An and ICBC and Bank of China. Now, these are H shares. I'll take Bank of China as an example. So 3988 is Bank of China H. $3988. You could be forgiven for confusing that with, if you come here and click this one, list of red chip companies, and you see Bank of China again. You see that? But this is Bank of China Hong Kong Holdings, 2388, which is not the last one. So the way to think about it is, oh, I have a, okay, this is a map of China. Okay, this is China. Pretend it's China. Now, so what happens is, this is in Beijing. I don't know where they are incorporated. I assume it's Beijing. And then they will sell, they probably have some A shares in China, and they have some H, which is 3988. So you can buy this in Hong Kong, or this is Hong Kong. And in Hong Kong itself, there is BOC Hong Kong, which is 2388. But in Hong Kong, you are buying the Hong Kong entity, which, although it's a name which, you know, similar to the one in China, you are buying actually a different business. Are you with me? Yeah, that's the way to think about it. Now, it is very possible that some of the shares in BOC Hong Kong is probably owned by BOC China. So the shares of BOC Hong Kong will appear on the asset side of BOC China. Yes, that's possible, but that's a different issue completely. Okay, that's how one company owns another one. So BOC Hong Kong is, so this is 2388, right? Yeah, is an example of a red chip that is true. And BOC is 3988. Okay. Yeah, sure. Okay, she asked a good question. Did you all hear that? She is asking me, do you mean BOC Hong Kong is a subsidiary of China? Now, that actually depends. It depends on exactly what I was saying around 2 minutes ago, whether BOC China is a substantial shareholder of BOC Hong Kong. Now, how can they become absolutely a subsidiary is if 100% of the shares are owned by BOC China, then it's what you call a wholly owned subsidiary. Okay. They can be a wholly owned subsidiary, which I don't think they are, or they can be a controlling shareholder. It depends on how much shares they have. Yeah, they may or may not be. Okay, sometimes BOC China starts off as a parent, and then they sell some of their holdings or part of it. That also is possible. It's called a spin-off, which you probably have heard of it. I think the answer to your question is they don't have to be. Okay? But in this instance, I am pretty sure that BOC China has a substantial controlling influence on BOC Hong Kong. Yeah. Okay? Can I have these back at the end of the class, please? Because I need to give them out again. What else? The majority of red chip listed on Hong Kong Exchange are incorporated in mainland China. No, that is exactly the opposite of the definition. They are listed they're incorporated outside of mainland China. Okay? Whereas the last question is true. So by definition, if you are H-share issuers are incorporated in China. All right. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Both in H and A shares. If one to capitalize, if they want to do a capitalization issue, does it have to do with both income coming into China? I mean, they have to, according to this question,
yeah.
It has to, right?
According to this question, they are doing it, but I don't think you need to. No, I don't think so. I think you are entirely, you are at liberty to do anything you want with different classes of shares. And you will find out, I think, with the take-home assignment that we're about to give you, that there are all kinds of capital structure adjustments that you can make, which wouldn't have to follow this, if you do it in A, you must do it in H. You don't have to follow that. I don't know.
But then how can you assure that both A shares and A shares each rises by 40% if you only do issue in mainland in A shares? If you know what I mean.
For this question, no, I think, okay, first of all, this is a very, very simple hypothetical question. I think the key here is not on the regulation behind it, but whether you understand the simple numbers. So there is an assumption, which, okay? Because there are all kinds of things that can happen. All right. Did you learn some? Hello? Sure. No, it's not. I think the H, if I may speculate, I think the H stands for Hong Kong or Hong. She said that she was looking up some references on the internet, and one source apparently says that when a Chinese company lists their stocks outside of China, doesn't matter whether you are in Hong Kong or New York or Mars, they are all called H shares. Let's say that is the case. Let's say that is the case. I think I wouldn't worry too much about that. If you talk about H shares, most people, their understanding is that these are shares that are listed for trading in Hong Kong. Now, if someone comes and tells you, okay, I insist, you're wrong, okay, fine. But here's the more important point. For Chinese companies listing their shares in New York or London, whether you want to call them H shares or not, fine, but it is a different market. And there are some interesting things that I can say about those shares. Whatever you want to call it, it could be that they're called H shares, but it is a different market. Like I said, Baidu and Alibaba are not only listed out of China, but they're incorporated outside of China. So you can get all kinds of combinations, actually. Okay. All right. It is now 9:52. I think some of you have a class. Do you have a class at 10 o'clock? Where? Downstairs, right? Two things, or three things. Number one, thank you for coming so early. Number two, can I have these back? And number three, if you haven't signed your attendance, you can do that at the end, okay? Thank you very much, everyone. I'll see you next week.